Hey guys, I'm kind of excited. Today we have something I haven't done in a long time, which is a Lamborghini Gallardo. This is a 2007. As you can see, it's a Spider. It's beautiful. Look, it's got a wonderful color here, red. This is kind of an interesting story because it came from Las Vegas, and apparently from what I'm being told, the new owner gave me a heads up that this was owned by a hypnotist out there.
And the unique part is that it was previously owned by a hypnotist, so super cool.
The bra is kind of messed up, so we're gonna have to replace that. The interior needs some love for sure, sort of bacteria and things. You know when you get a new car, or a used car in this case, and you wanna kind of make it your own, that's what I'm doing today. He just wants to know that everything is up to snuff. So we're gonna do some polishing. We definitely have to take off the fading bra in the back, it's very yellow, and the exhaust tips need to be polished. So kind of a fun day. I haven't seen these in a long time, so let's get started. Okay, step one is pretty obvious. It's PPF removal. So I got the hot water kettles heating up, and then I inspected the bra in the meantime. Now, as you can see, this thing is totally swirled out, very likely from a combination of poor washing techniques and older non-self-healing material. First, peel up an edge with your finger, then start to pour the hot water and carefully pull the PPF. Nice. Once the nose was removed, I focused on the smaller areas like the door handles, the lower rocker panels, headlights, and of course the mirrors. Okay, at this point, I took off all the clear bra. Wasn't that challenging. If you use hot water, it's pretty good. Plus, that bra was pretty decent. Sometimes I get such old bra that as soon as you peel it off, it comes out in pieces, and it's a nightmare. So this one worked out great. Now, the thing that you want to hear right here, I put my microphone, listen. That's the sound of contamination. So we're gonna have to wash this thing, clay it up, and then polish it. So let's go. To decontaminate the car, I first used rapid remover to lift the remaining glue on the driver's side part that was being really difficult. Then I applied high pH Titan 12 degreaser to pre-soak the lower portions of the car to basically loosen up all the grime before power washing, and then after that, covering the paint in Brute soap, and then of course washing with microfiber towels. After the rinse was done, I then clayed the paint using the same exact soap from the wash step previously. I used soap as a lubricant instead of a spray wax lubricant. It's much cheaper, easier, quicker, and you're in the process of actually washing the car, so it just makes a whole lot of sense. When you're done, be sure to rinse the clay off if you use paint or wheel soap as a lubricant, as your clay may break down faster if you leave it sitting in the car soap, let's say overnight or for a couple of days. However, if you just rinse it afterwards under the water, it's not a concern. Finally, I played with the exhaust pipes before rinsing the entire car once again, and then getting the lift blocks underneath the Lambo to remove the wheels. One thing to keep in mind before the car actually goes up, make sure you loosen the lug nuts when they're down on the ground, meaning when you have the weight of the car on the wheels, so the wheels don't spin when you're up in the air, and then you lose your leverage to remove them with your ratchet, so keep that in mind. With the wheels off, you can see the driver's side hub and suspension has seen way better days in its life. Same oily mess on all four sides. I'll have a lot more on this later. With the Lambo all the way up, you can really start to see the level of oil and grease just everywhere. The shocks are clearly leaking fluid, so I sprayed degreaser and let it do its job for a little while as I was setting up the tools, because man, this thing is just absolutely caked in gunk. When I came back a few minutes later, you can really start to see the cleaner penetrating the oils and dripping off the frame. Okay, so the car is lifted up, and for the last probably 10 minutes or so, I've been putting degreaser on all the parts here. I have to say, this is a little bit more dirty than I thought it was going to be with respect to the grease. If you can see inside over there, it is, I mean, just like actual gunk of just grease and junk coming off it. Like I'm picking it up with my finger, and you can actually like slap it on the floor. There's some right there. Like I'll turn it around right now and show you. Look what's on the floor right now. That's just falling off. That's straight up like you can pick that up grease. So I don't know what's going on here, but it absolutely 1000% is in desperate need of an undercarriage cleaning, which we're gonna do right now. Okay, so this time I added some degreaser to the leftover brute in the foamer. I then soaked the undercarriage and scrubbed everything I could get my hands on. When I finally rinsed with a power washer, the amount of hidden oils that came out absolutely covered my floor, but the frame looked 1,000 times better at that point. Afterwards, I used compressed air and a terry towel to check over my work and to touch up any of the super heavy spots, and we were finally moving in the right direction. Now, with the frame looking disgusting, I can only imagine what the backside of the wheels or the rims look like. Now, they looked clean from the front, but the back had the same oils underneath, and this leads me to believe that the shocks were actually the culprit in this whole thing. A few years ago, the reason I changed my R8 suspension to JRZs was because I had 4 leaky original shocks. Now, as you know, the Gallardo and the R8 are structurally similar and have some of the same parts, so it seems like shock failure to me is a reasonable guess. But if there's any mechanics out there watching this, leave a comment if I'm way off base. Nonetheless, the black that you're seeing on the back side of the rim is not just brake dust, it's oils or some type of oily fluid. So you put degreaser on there, in this case Titan 12 or whatever you have, instead of wheel cleaner. The goal here is wheel cleaner is going to be fighting the brake dust. Okay, that's great. There's not a ton of brake dust here. As you can see from the front, somebody tried to keep it clean, but the back side is just absolutely caked in grease. So if you have grease, you need a degreaser. We're going to do that. In fact, I'm going to put degreaser on the other 3 and let this sit for a minute. With a fresh wheel bucket, it was time to restore the wheels. Obviously, the before and after when I was done was completely insane. It's almost like the oil or the lubricant or whatever it was protected the surface, so that was kind of cool. There were a few wheel weights and stickers and all kinds of things remaining that we couldn't see because of the oil, so to get those off, make sure you use a solvent, something like Rapid Remover, and then a plastic razor blade, and obviously tons of patience. Then I cleaned the front side as you normally would, and then look at the before and after. Absolutely amazing. It was super cool. Now, this concept of over lubricating the barrel was so cool that it got me thinking that these types of sort of thought-provoking hands-on moments, whatever you want to call it, is what gets these creative juices flowing and fosters new product innovations. You see, getting into the trench and sort of failing a lot is what led to products like Hydrate, Frothy, Reflex, and so on. So for me, detailing is not just this therapeutic nature, but it's where the combination of chemistry and real detailing exists. Now, as you know, I'm a huge proponent of just using the act of detailing your car as a way to trigger your subconscious to work on solutions that you are searching for with your job or your personal life, your kids, your friends, whatever. So don't discount this repetitive nature of cleaning your car, because you may just land on a useful innovation or just unravel the bird's nest in your head, all while washing your car. It's pretty cool. After the wheels, I lowered the Lambo and focused on the calipers and suspension with a toothbrush and a wash mitt to remove the grease. The calipers did have a bit of brake dust on them, so Plum was used there, and then a foam cannon on the wheel wells with a few brushes. As I said before, if you have a tough problem to solve, pull your wheels off and clean your suspension. Say goodbye to about 3 hours or so, but it will feel like 10 minutes, and all of this with no therapist bill. Okay, at this point we cleaned up the underneath, the suspension, and then of course the wheels back there. Now I'm working on the paint. I did a test spot towards the rear there and figured out after a couple of different steps that it is super hard, which is not something that I was expecting with this car. Here's why. When it showed up, it looked pretty good. And so when you look at a car that looks pretty good and you're like, you're inspecting it, one thing you can think of is one, it was either detailed recently or somebody maintained it really well, or in this case, because it was a used car, because it was in Las Vegas, because it was owned by a used car dealer, it's very likely not gonna have the love and care of, let's say, someone who does this every single day and that kind of thing. So then I looked at it and said, man, I can see some swirls, but it's not so bad. So it's either maintained, which in this case, unlikely, doesn't mean it doesn't happen, or the other one is the paint is very hard. So you're not gonna have tons and tons of swirls, let's say, like you would on very soft paint, but instead, as a detailer going in, I'm going, oh man, this paint's probably gonna be really hard, which means I'm gonna have to throw a lot at it. When you throw a lot at it, in this case, I'm doing the coarse wool pad blue with the blue compound. That means I'm gonna have to follow up with a second step right here, yellow pad, yellow polish. So it just adds a little bit more. So when I'm looking at a car and I'm talking to the car, yeah, of course, yeah, I'm excited, and you're talking, doing whatever you're doing. At the same time, I'm also assessing the paint like, this isn't as bad as it looks, but it's not just like, oh, it's a free job, this is easy, it's gonna be free, or it's gonna cost me less time. In the back of my mind, I'm going, something's not right here. And in this case, it's not that it's right or wrong, it's just that it's hard paint, which requires me to do a little bit more. Typically, most of the time, it's usually 2 steps. So, earphones in, blue pad on, time to polish the paint. With the car now down, I polished the hood and then put the roof down to have easier access to the trunk and the gloss black trim under the convertible top. The Lamborghini badge on the back was old and it had a ton of scratches around it, so the owner asked if I could take it off. Now, naturally, these are held in with dowel type holes for centering, which makes them not as easy to cleanly remove, but they would come out safely based on my quick forum research. The glue left behind should be removed with rapid remover and a plastic blade. Now, make peace with the fact that you're gonna put a few minor scuffs and scratches in the paint that will need to be polished afterwards, but I'm doing that anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, now we got the paint looking beautiful. We need to focus on the trim, and the trim is a bit of a disaster. As you can see right here, I do think that the engine has caused some unnatural wear. As you can see, it's like yellow and there's dots everywhere. I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like heat to me. Instead of using the big pad, the 6-inch, we're gonna be using 3-inch, the same sort of setup. We have the coarse wool pad and then the yellow foam. The trick to this is cutting, I think, is gonna be pretty simple. We're gonna see what happens. And the polish, the finishing step, the last phase, however you want to call it, is going to be kind of the pain in the butt. Same concept as before, like on the B pillars. You're going to use one pass, then blow out the pad. Don't put any more polish on there and do one pass and sort of take one step at a time and see how it goes from there. So we have a lot to do on this one because I think there's going to be a ton of residue coming off, but let's give it a go. The before and after with just one step was huge. So I repeated the same steps on the driver's side as well. Then I polished with a yellow pad. Now, it was much better than before, but it still requires a little bit more finishing. I did the same thing on the A pillars as well. Next, for a change of pace and to give my back a little bit of a rest from polishing for a few minutes, I coated the wheels in Gelée Pro to protect the like-new barrels and to make future cleanings easier. Before reinstalling the coated rims, I polished the calipers with my mini rotary, applied Gelée to the black paint, and then used steel wool with some flits to clean up the hubs. The goal here isn't to make it shine, as it's obviously hidden behind the rim, you can't see it, but to remove the rust and to make it cleaner as you're mating the surfaces, meaning the wheel and the hub touch each other. So I used a bit of grease given to me by Steve across the street to slow the rate of oxidation and to make it a little bit easier getting on and off going forward. Lastly, I applied mud to the plastic wheel wells for a rejuvenated look. The contrast between the deep black plastic against the perfectly clean rim is what we call framing. Much like the frame of a picture, having the edges, the trim, and the background accents a deep, rich, opposing color allows the centerpiece, aka the picture, to pop out. As the day turned to night, I lowered the car and reinstalled the wheels and torqued them to spec. The next morning, I moved the Lambo into bay number 2 for PPF on the front nose and engine steam cleaning in the back before moving to the interior while the PPF was drying. As you can see, this has had a bit of a hard Vegas life, let's just say, and needs to be refreshed. First, use the steamer to warm up the leather. Then apply lather and work the product in with an interior brush. Immediately afterwards, use the steamer again to increase its cleaning power and then wipe dry with a microfiber towel. For the carpets and the floor mats, I used the Galaxy Auto 3000, and even though they looked relatively clean, look at the water afterwards. With the interior now drying, I took the downtime to apply Reflex Pro to the PPF and the freshly polished paint. Then finished up the interior with mousse, leather, and UV conditioner because of its convertibleness, let's just say. Reinstalled the plastic vents, final vacuumed, replaced the floor mats, hand polished the exhaust tips again, cleaned the abnormally smudgy and difficult to reach glass, that was a huge pain in the butt by the way, and applied mud to the tires before revealing the car to the owner. Well guys, we're all done and this thing looks absolutely spectacular. One of my favorite colors in a Lamborghini I've ever worked on. Super cool. We lifted it up as you saw before. There was just a ton of dirt from normal driving, so it was kind of fun to do an underneath or suspension detail. Then of course polished it, put a full clear bra on. There's actually, here it is. I'll bend down and get it. This is the clear bra from before. It is yellow and gross. And now it looks amazing. Put some Reflex on it. The only thing left to do is to reveal it to my buddy Ryan. I think he's pretty stoked. He has a cool collection and this is one of his pride and joys. So let's get this thing, I had to do a little bit more touch up, but let's get this thing ready to go and get Ryan in here. Hang on, coming.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Come on in.
Oh my God.
What do you think?
Amazing. Wow. It looks beautiful. The tips look amazing. Is this the clear bra?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was that yellow. It looks beautiful.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Out of control. So happy. Love it. So amazing. Thank you so much.
You got it, man. This thing was a blast. Great color.
Yeah, this color is it's crazy to see. It's like a candy apple red. Rare that you see these in the Gallardo, so it's pretty cool. But it looks, I mean, unbelievable. I can't even see the lines of the clear bra or anything. It's beautiful. Yeah, love it, man.
For the very last step, I wanted Ryan to experience the feeling of badging his own car, so I waited until he arrived to put it back on the rear deck. First, he popped holes in the PPF, peeled the backing, and stuck it into place. It was no sweat, and it looked awesome.